All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakan Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much love, peace, and salutations to you brothers out there preaching this word in truth and sincerity, and to you hopefully elect out there. All right, peace and blessings be upon you. So this is a video I came across on my timeline today. It's a day old. Let's see, when was this put out? On the 30th. You know, today's the first. Well, it's like 2 days old, but it says, so I saw this, you know, lately they've been putting these little whack ass definitions at the bottom of different videos, like this one. RT is funded in whole or in part by the Russian government, you know, as if to say that what's being spoken thereof inside of this is not valid because of that or something. But you know, no, this is the truth. This is what's actually happened. So I'm gonna just let some of this play, link it up with some scriptures, you know.
Now for our top international story this hour, we are examining the growing global trend of ditching the US dollar. As this week, Russia announced it is working towards replacing the US currency while conducting trade with African nations. Chairman of the Russia-Zimbabwe Business Council told reporters, quote, "I think it's possible to use other currencies in Africa," adding, "We know that the Russian bank VTB is planning to extend its activity in the region so we could switch to settlements in the currencies that are more convenient to the lender." This news comes just weeks after the Russian government announced it will work to de-dollarize its economy in a bid to lessen the impact of U.S. sanctions. Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke about this initiative earlier this month.
Right. So, you know, as the prophets of the Lord, the men of GMS, starting with the elder apostles from Tahar on down to the different brothers who have been letting you know about the end time prophecies that have been coming to pass, you know, these people, these nations are beginning to hate the whore, you know, and the end result is that they're going to burn her with fire, you know. And that whore is America, Babylon the Great, you know, and they're gonna burn this place with fire, you know. And the 10 horns represents NATO and the EU. So when it says Revelation 17 and 16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, NATO and the EU, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And that's gonna be the end result, because America, you know, with Trump being at the spearhead is placing sanctions. Slovakia is placing sanctions on these different countries, you know, and they're gonna hate the whore, you know. The man, let me just get this other scripture, man. You know, because this place here is exceeding proud, you know. Daniel 7 and 20. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, that other little horn that came up is America, Babylon the Great, and before whom 3 fell, which was Britain, France, and Spain, if I'm not mistaken. Britain, France, and Spain were the other 3 that fell when America came up, you know. The French Revolution. Yeah, when they came from Britain. Yeah, that's right. Slovakia. I just wanted to make sure. Anyway, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, of the other which came up, America, Babylon the Great, and before whom 3 fell, Spain, Britain, and France, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows, you know. And when this place is exceeding proud, just imagine a little Donald Trump coming up like a horn out of the head of the beast, you know, and just look the look on Donald Trump's face, man. You know, the look was more stout than his fellows, because he's exceedingly proud, you know. Look at him. You know, look at him. He's proud as hell. Look at this. Come on, man. This is the epitome of proud Edomite right here, man. That look, man. You know, He's a super proud Edomite. But anyway, so yeah, you know, right now he's the spearhead of America, and hey, man, you know, his look is more stout than his fellows. He's thinking higher of himself. He has a proud look to himself, you know. But anyway, let me go ahead and get back to the lesson, man. You know, these people are rising up because of these sanctions. America thinks that it still has the same power. You know, Most High's putting the spirit on them to be dumb and actually not be able to understand what's going on. You know, they don't have the same power they used to. But he's sanctioning China. He's sanctioning Russia. You know, his other little allies that he's drained them of their resources. They're getting pissed off. All right, and they're going to these other nations to help them. So, like, if I'm too loud, let me move this back a little bit. But they're getting pissed. You know, they're getting pissed, and they're going to these other nations for help, namely Russia. But China's, you know, helping too. But anyway, I'm gonna let this play some more.
We will definitely be moving in this direction, towards independence from the US dollar. Not because we want to undermine the dollar, but because we want to ensure our own security, because we have sanctions imposed on us. They don't let us work with the dollar.
And as we've discussed quite a few...
See, they have the sanctions on these big countries like Russia, and they have to. They're being forced to ditch the dollar because otherwise they're not going to be able to afford to do anything.
Few times here on In Question, Moscow is not the only capital looking to buck the U.S. buck. With the dollar's future in question, we thought now would be the perfect time to break down the details of this global trend. And In Question producer Kay Pritzker is here to help me do just that. Kay, let's start with Russia. What is driving this move to de-dollarize? And also, what did Russia do last month that has people a little bit concerned?
Yeah, so this is pretty straightforward for Russia. Obviously, Russia's been the target of a pretty aggressive U.S. sanctions campaign since 2014, and might cut it off further from the international finance system. So they're stacking gold because gold has been an alternative international payment system for most of history.
Right, so these countries are switching over, just like Muammar Gaddafi tried to do. He tried to switch the standard for purchasing. Let me see. Muammar. I think I'm spelling his name right. Okay. Yeah. This dude kind of looked dead before he even died. Now let me get this, man. Oh, that's that, but that just brought that the scripture to mind about he will raise up the dead, even the chief. Let me get that. Isaiah 14:9. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee. And so who are the dead? Even all the chief ones of the earth. It have raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. So these other nations which do not have the spirit of life, you know, which is the law, statutes, and commandments, and you know, of the Most High, you know, which leads you to life, they're the dead, you know. So that was a right statement when I said he looked dead before he was even killed, you know, because hey, without the Most High's commandments, you are dead, you know. All right, but newly disclosed emails show that Libya's plan to create a gold-backed currency to compete with the euro and dollar was a motive for NATO's intervention. See, this is why they killed him. And concern over Gaddafi's gold and silver reserves threatening European currency, and first and foremost, American currency. See, the threat of Libya's oil and gold to French interests. French clients and Gaddafi's gold, you know. So his gold, 143 tons of gold and similar amount in silver. You know, this gold was accumulated prior to the current rebellion. African currency based on the Libyan golden dinar. See, they got gold, and we don't. So they went and killed his ass because he threatened to overthrow them, but it wasn't time yet. Now the time's actually coming where the American dollar is already being dumped, you know, and this place is going to be destroyed because it's losing its power, and it's not going to have a leg to stand on.
And they would use that to conduct international transactions instead of the US dollar. They recently dumped 84% of their US debt holdings. It really doesn't make sense for Russia to hold.
They dumped 84% of their US debt. And they got 1,998.5 tons of gold
onto debt of a
they're set up, man. They're good to go to let us go, man. This place is going down.
Country that's targeting with sanctions.
Yeah, that seems to make some sense. Now, Russia did this in October, right? China also made a similar move. It's the largest holder of U.S. debt. Why is it following in Russia's footsteps?
Yeah, so China's in a similar position. Tensions between China and the U.S. have been very bad, obviously.
Right, and Trump, you know, Trump is so dumb. You know, it's all through the spirit of the Most High that he allowed it to be this way. You know, let's see. I think that's what it is. Yeah. Jeremiah 40. Because it's all, like I said, it's all through the spirit, but Trump's making some dumbass moves. He's really hastening the destruction of this place because, like, 99, I don't even want to say 99. Let's just say, 85% of the things that we use here are from China. And you're gonna charge them more to ship their stuff over? Where do you think we get all these cheap goods from? Made in China, made in China, made in China. So much stuff we get from China, you know, and you putting the boot to China's ass like, oh, give me more money to ship your goods over here. They're gonna say fuck you, and they're gonna switch what they will accept for their goods, and pretty soon they ain't gonna want your damn fiat currency, man, because it's not gonna be worth anything. It's already pretty much not worth anything now. Jeremiah 49:7, concerning Edom, thus saith the Lord of hosts. Edom, Esau, you so-called white people, man, the rulers, the elites, you so-called Jews, you're from the nation of Edom, all right? Those are the people in control, the international bankers, all right? So this is talking about them. And Esau, the chief puppet of Esau right now, the puppet is Trump, man. He's an Edomite. So he's not being wise. Concerning Edom, thus says the Lord of hosts. Is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Because, hey, that's what you would ask if you look at what Trump's doing. You know, if you were in the mindset of wanting this place to continue, which we are, I'm not, you know, we ready for this place to go down, you know. But if you are of the mindset of wanting this place to continue, you would look at Trump like, why is he being so dumb? Because his wisdom is gone, man. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, man. And China got 1,842.6 tons, $6 billion. They dropped $6 billion of U.S. debt.
There's this trade war.
There ain't nothing you can do to pay them back.
And underlying the trade war is this U.S. recognition that China is the illegitimate threat to its economic hegemony. So in anticipation of this,
right? And these are wrong. It's a threat to their economic hegemony, leadership, or dominance, especially by one country. So China is a legitimate threat to the hegemony or dominance economically, Slovakia, of the U.S., you know?
China set up this petro-yuan exchange, which would challenge the petrodollar system. The petrodollar system forces every country in the world to buy oil with US dollars, but the petro-yuan system would allow international investors and countries to buy oil in gold and yuan. So it's a big blow to the US.
It's a major blow. That's an uppercut, cross, left hook, just all type of, I mean, you know, just gut punch. There's just, hey, man. Hey, the U.S., all you got to do is blow on the U.S. right now, and it's going to fall to the canvas, down for the count.
Is very interesting coming from China, but its neighbor, India, making similar moves. What can you tell us there?
Yeah, so India is not necessarily antagonistic to the United States, but it's also growing closer to China. India recently joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and it's also been picking up the slack in the U.S.-China trade war. China's been cutting down on its import of soybeans from the U.S., and India's been exporting soybeans to China. So if it wants to join some kind of multilateral organization with Russia and China, it would theoretically use gold to conduct payments instead of U.S. dollars.
So we're seeing an instance of...
Yeah, that infrastructure is already being set up where gold's becoming the standard again. And we know that the U.S. currency is not backed up by any gold, you know? It's fiat currency. Yeah, I spelled it wrong. Fiat currency is legal tender whose value is backed by the government that issued it. The US dollar is fiat money, as are the euro and many other major world currencies. This approach differs from money whose value is underpinned by some physical good, such as gold or silver, called commodity money. So this fiat money is only as good as the government behind it. And this government that's behind this money is not good. It's whack. So yeah, man, they're not accepting your hegemony anymore. Your leadership or dominance is being taken from you.
Of the U.S. trade war pushing a U.S. ally far away and even closer to China, which maybe is ironic, not the intended outcome of Trump's policy, I'm sure. Japan, the second largest holder of U.S. debt, sticking with the trend here, no?
Yes. So Japan is interesting because it's traditionally been a strong U.S. ally, but Japan's economy has been weakening lately, and it's been talking to China, which goes against U.S. interests. Recently, Xi Jinping met with Shinzo Abe, the Japanese prime minister, and the outcome of that meeting was a 200 billion yuan currency swap, which shows that Japan thinks that the Chinese economy might be its future. It's trying to accumulate alternative currencies, the yuan being a international reserve currency that's fairly popular. So Japan and China may cooperate economically further in the future, moving away from the U.S.
So the trend here.
Right, and that's what's going on. Let's get a scripture just to show you, because these countries are making moves that they previously would have been scared to make, but now they're not scared anymore, Joel 3. And 9, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. And that's what's coming, man. World War III is on the way. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong, And so that's what's coming. That's what's coming, man. They're beating their plowshares, which are farming instruments, into weapons of war. And their pruning hooks, which are also instruments of farming, into spears, which are weapons of war. Let the weak say, I am strong. So they're not, they're no longer afraid to buck the system and to drop the dollar, And read this right here. Global trend to de-dollarize spreads.
Dumping U.S. debt and buying gold, or expanding the gold reserves. Turkey is also following China and India's cue here. Why has Ankara moved to do that? Yeah, so Turkey, again, is in a middle position. On one hand, it is a NATO country, but recently it's been having some tensions with the U.S. There was the spat over the arrest of Pastor Bunsen, and there was also...
See, a part of the 10 horns, and the 10 horns shall hate the whore.
The instance where Turkey bought S-400s from Russia, the U.S. objected to that, and Erdogan really stuck his ground. He dumped 12% of U.S. debt holdings, and he also repatriated 220 tons of gold, 28 tons of which came from the U.S. Federal Reserve. Wow. And Turkey and India, I should also mention, both made this.
Said he repatriated a certain amount of gold. To send something back to its own country. Return to one's country. So I guess he send or bring something, especially money, back to one's own country. So they sent back some money. Let me hear that again.
His ground, he dumped 12% of U.S. debt holdings, and he also repatriated 220 tons of gold, 28 tons of which came from the U.S. Federal Reserve.
Wow. And Turkey and India, I should also mention, both
so maybe that
made
means he brought it back to his country. I'm not sure.
Decision to buy weapons from Russia, even though the United States did not want them to do that. So they're signaling some changes in traditional.
And they're buying weapons from Russia, you know.
Alliances. Turkey's also been working to build an alliance with Venezuela, though, which made big news recently regarding the dollar.
Yeah, Venezuela recently announced that its international exchange would no longer be denominated in dollars. It would be denominated in euro and yuan. So you can't buy Venezuelan commodities using the dollar anymore. Also, they created this cryptocurrency called the petro. The petro would be an alternative means of payment for Venezuela internationally. It's backed.
You know, and Venezuela, which is a previous ally of the U.S., has been going through turmoil, you know. And this is just a little article here how Venezuela's crisis developed and drove out millions of people, you know. And this was put out when? Not too long ago, actually. It's like oh yeah, August 22nd, 2018, you know. Venezuela's economy is in free fall, hyperinflation, which is going to happen to the U.S. dollar. Prepare for that to come to the U.S. Power cuts, power is getting cut. Food and medicine shortages are driving millions of Venezuelans out of the country, you know. And this is how they're going to implement the market of beasts. There's going to be shortages all around, you know. Many are blaming President Nicolas Maduro and his government for the dire state of the nation is in. Oh man, you should blame your allies, man. You're the one who's backing you, you know, the U.S. government, man. And that's why they're dropping the U.S. government and they're picking up Russia and Chinese, you know. So like your BBC News takes a closer look at how Venezuela's economy descended into its current crisis. 95% of government revenues come from oil exports. The predicted inflation rate, damn, 1,000,000% inflation rate. It's crazy. Arguably, the biggest problem is that hyperinflation. Let's just skim through. I ain't gonna read the whole thing. Small items like a cup of coffee costing 2.5 million bolivars. Damn. Using the currency's redenomination. A pile of bolivars needed to buy a roll of tissue paper is taller than the roll itself. This is how little their money means. That's coming to America. To avoid going shopping with rucksacks for the cash, Venezuelans increasingly started using electronic transfers for even the smallest transactions. That's what's happening, man. That's what's coming. That's gonna be the quickest way to issue in the market of beasts is hyperinflation, man. When you need to carry, you know, this much cash just to get one roll of toilet paper, how much more when you go in to buy food? You know, it's gonna cause people who do have any type of money to swap it over to electronic currency. They're rich in oil and has the largest proven reserves in the world, but they poor like that? Come on, man. But arguably, it's this exact wealth that underpins many of its economic problems. So much oil, they never bothered to produce much else. Yeah, so it sells oil to other countries. With the dollars it earns, it imports the goods. The oil revenues are 95% of its commodities are its economy. Let me look here, just scrolling through. So anyway, man, because of all this stuff that they raising the minimum wage to 34 times its previous level, you know, but none of that stuff is helping. Many people have been voting with their feet and leaving Venezuela. to lock in. But this is what's coming to America, man. You know. This is what's coming to America. So they blame Maduro, but we know this is a U.S. ally. They say that the U.S. sanctions have hampered the government by making it hard to restructure its debt. And this is why they're dropping the U.S. dollar.
Backed by gold and oil, so any country that's interested in Venezuela's gold or oil can buy some petro, and Venezuela can get commodities it needs from the internet.
Eliminated the dollar in October, created gold and oil-backed petro gold reserves 164.2 tons. So they're switching from having a dollar back because the dollar's useless to them now. So now they're creating a whole new system of currency, which is backed by their oil reserves, which they have an abundance of, and their gold. You know,
national market.
That's the only option they have. Let the weak say I'm strong. It's the only option they have to make it now, is to drop the U.S. dollar.
Venezuela is in a position very similar to Iran, which was way ahead of the curve when it comes to making some of these decisions, moving away from the dollar. What can you tell us about what's happening with Iran?
Yeah, so Iran is obviously no stranger to U.S. aggression, and a while back they were pulled from the SWIFT system, which is the electronic payment system internationally. They were re-added to that, but in 2017, anticipating further sanctions, Iran took the dollar off their foreign and financial exchanges. And gold demand has tripled in Iran as well, because sanctions have further isolated Iran from the international financial community. Iranians know that gold is an alternative means of payment to the U.S. dollar.
Well, Iran's...
Yeah, everybody knows that gold is really the original way of paying for stuff.
Foreign minister said very recently that he believes the trend of the world is moving away from the dollar. Let's listen to what he had to say.
The seeds, and I'm not naive to believe that this tree will grow tomorrow, but the seeds of moving away from U.S. dollar are being sowed.
They're more than sowed, as you can see. They're already in countries that are well below poverty, like Venezuela. You know, they're already they're already done. You know, it's a done deal. There's nothing that they can do unless they switch their currency.
And I think U.S. pressure is the fertilizer.
U.S. pressure is the fertilizer. U.S. pressure is the miracle grow that's going to make these seeds pop into trees very shortly.
Age of dominance, the age of hegemony is long gone. I see a future for our region when all states in our region accept this fact and stop trying to dominate.
Very briefly, Kay, all of these countries have something in common. They're either in some sort of rift with the United States or directly targeted.
And they're not going to stop trying to dominate. There's always going to be a vying for power, a fight for power. But, I mean, once Esau's system is taken down, it's going to be the Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai system, you know, the system of Yasharallah, man, you know, in righteousness, starting with the Most High, his son, Yahweh Shai, you know, the elect men, you know, on down, man. All of Israel is going to be in rulership, you know, and the rest of you nations, man, y'all going to be at the bottom. It's going to be an everlasting kingdom under Yasharallah, you know.
By sanctions, why does this move away from the dollar make sense for all of them?
Yeah, it makes sense right now because, you know, these countries have always wanted this, but now the U.S. is really going, its hubris has gone beyond its capacity. It's fighting these wars in Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq that it can't finance. It's losing these wars. It's losing international respect. Well, these countries, Iran, China, Russia, are on the rise.
Right, they've spread their forces thin, you know. They're all deployed out into these other places. They're all trying to fight and push their dominance on these other nations while their economy is falling, while their method of payment, their currency is falling, you know, and these other nations are rising and they're using real money, gold, you know, not just some face value currency that's backed by fear. the fear tactics ain't working no more because they're becoming strong, you know. And also I did want to touch on that about Venezuela taking they're taking the petro yuan and they're taking the ruble, the petro ruble. Let me see. I don't know how to spell ruble. See, Venezuela's petro is reported. Russia reportedly helped Venezuela launch its petro cryptocurrency to skirt U.S. sanctions. Venezuela's state-backed cryptocurrency, the petro, is a half-hidden joint venture between Venezuelan and Russian officials and businessmen. You see? All right. Ezekiel 38. Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. This represents the Russians today, you know. And thus saith the Lord of power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, of all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. That's what's coming, man. World War III. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarma of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. Many people are going to join up with Russia, man, because they right now they have the technology, the military technology to defeat the U.S. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. You know, so these different places are being strengthened, you know, by Russia. You know, they're being emboldened by the fact that they feel safe linking up with Russia, because Russia will help them.
Forming multilateral ties, they're building diplomatic relations.
And something like that has never happened since World War II. It's no coincidence, of course, that many of these countries are also in BRICS, which are trying to build an alternative to the U.S. financial hegemony we've experienced over the last few decades. In question, producer Kay Pritzker, thanks so much for coming and breaking all that down. You are great. We're going to take a short break, but we'll be...
So, you know, that's pretty much it, man. America's about to be destroyed, you know. Prophecy is, hey, man, the spirit was definitely heavy on Elder Apostle Tahar, you know what I'm saying, to coin this, the year of prophecy, because prophecy is exploding, you know. Prophecy's popping like that popcorn in that pan with all that hot grease. And pretty soon the lid gonna pop off from how much pressure is in there, man. You know, because hey, this stuff is speeding up, man. You know, hey, man, I wouldn't be surprised if we out of here 40 years up. But you know, hey, man, any day now. You know, I'm gonna leave out with this scripture. Romans 13 and 11. And that, knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than we believed. I want to give all honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much love and salutations to you hopefully elect out there, pushing this word in truth and in sincerity. And with that, I say shalom.